Hey everybody. Welcome to my channel. We're going to do something we haven't done in a really long time. Cerebral movie chat. You might remember, gosh, I think it was almost a year ago. Um, I've been pretty busy. That I reviewed the movie Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which of course was very powerful for me at the time, because of everything that was going on, sort of the end of the series of movies and things like that. So I actually am at the end of my spring break, and as you know, I did do some more videos. Bear and I did some more videos, and I also wanted to talk about something much more serious today, as kind of a commentary on what I've been watching, kind of a movie review, because I really do enjoy the movie reviews that other people on their channels put out, and I thought that I would do a little bit of one for me. Although, again, it's just me. It's my wee channel, so I don't have all the bells and whistles that maybe other people have on their videos. So what I want to talk about, though, is Adolescence, the Netflix series that is so shocking and so powerful, and really well done in the sense of shining a light on this really ugly chapter of humanity or society or the British school system or whatever you want to say. Both of these are British shows because, as you know, I consider myself British. My grandfather was from Warwickshire, and we love you, Grandpa. So that's sort of the way I feel about myself, that I am, even though I was born in Canada, of course, Canada is still a Commonwealth country, thank goodness, and hopefully will even more so be. So I want to make a very brief comment. I'm not going to comment on it too much because that thing's a powder keg. That was like, oh, that was very hard to watch. It was very frightening. But it reminded me of my life so, so deeply that I want to at least put it out there for posterity. Um, it's called Baby Reindeer. I found it because I was watching other videos about the movie Adolescence, the short movie series Adolescence, which was like a 4 episode, I guess, TV show series. And they were talking about other movies, like that. And then I'd never heard of it. I mean, I'd kind of heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was about. And whoa, that movie is shocking, and disturbing. So I will not go into any spoilers about that, but it's basically about a woman who is a stalker and is seriously, very completely mentally disturbed to the nth degree. If you watch it, you'll absolutely see it, and sort of what ends up happening to this man who, unfortunately, isn't very bright, in my opinion. But that's my opinion, and I'll stick with it. Befriends this woman, way, way too much. Befriends her, and then she starts believing in him, liking her, and then, of course, that does not end well because obviously she's a stalker. And so you can watch it yourself. There's a lot of things to it. It's like I said, a powder keg. Be prepared to be shocked, though, if you've not had this kind of attention. I grew up with it. My sister is basically exactly like this woman, except for the fact that I was expected to let her do what she wanted. And she's still like that now. So it's frightening how you are brainwashed into thinking that people's really, really awful behavior is something you should just put up with. So the one thing I will say for anybody who has a lot of trauma or who has endured really awful, awful abuse from people, that this might be upsetting, but you might see yourself in it too. And it set me free a little bit because I'm like, this wasn't my fault. I mean, this woman is literally very, very mental in the sense that she has terrible issues, terrible problems, and she isn't getting help for them because we all know the state of the mental health care, especially when you can't even pay for it. Um, And people take advantage of your empathy and your goodness, which I know is what so many people did with me, until I wouldn't let them do it anymore. So that is that show. It's on Netflix. You can watch it right now if you choose to, but buyer beware, right? So, warning, label. The second one I will talk about in a little more detail is adolescence, because I have worked with kids most of my life. Of course, I was a child. I do work with them. I worked in schools for a really long time. So I've seen how kids have changed over the years. And being Gen X, we roll all, by the way. Yeah. So, how different it is. When you were Gen X, you were the one being abused most of the time, right? Because the boomers often were so terrible to everybody and, again, took zero responsibility. And still don't, I think, a lot of them. And granted, not everybody behaved that way, but I knew plenty of people that went through what I went through. And I don't just mean at home. I mean school. I mean, out anywhere. I mean, people just didn't behave very well a lot of the time. They didn't think that kids were worth much, I guess. And so they just thought that we should just do what they wanted. And that wasn't just me. That was my whole generation. A lot of people would talk about that and do talk about that on the YouTube now. So that was a weird thing. And then now, fast forward 2025, you've got kids doing the same thing to teachers now and EAs, right? They're all of a sudden the ones who are behaving badly. They're all of the ones who are acting entitled. They're the ones who act like they should just be able to get everything and do everything and get away with everything. And it's a really upsetting thing to see, because I already lived through it once. And now we're being made to live through it again, right? When we didn't do anything to anybody, right? Like, ever. So that's kind of, in my opinion, what this story is about. Again, it's called Adolescence. And it's really well named because this boy, he's like barely 13. And of course, if you remember 13, you're in grade 8. You just left elementary school. You're like, if in Canada anyway, like grade 8 is the very beginning of high school. And so you're young. You're not, you're not 18, you're not 16, you're not, you're a young teenager, like super young. And so it's this story of this boy, 4-episode story that chronicles this boy and how he starts as this innocent young fellow that is almost more childlike. And then, okay, spoiler ahead. If you didn't already know that, I'll put that in the absolute title. Spoilers ahead. Who is charged with the gruesome murder of this girl who's also 13. Now, you're going to be shocked, because if you haven't been in school for a while, you're going to be like, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? Yeah, because it's a very, very different place. And it doesn't matter if it's a private school or, like they call them, English public schools, which are, very well thought of, or at least used to be very well thought of. And apparently this particular school is really badly run. I mean, they have the, kind of beautiful Harry Potter type uniforms, but that's where it ends. The teachers don't know how to do anything. The kids just behave any way they want. And they really show you this, like how aggressive they are and how different everything is. So that's one of the episodes. Another of the episodes is this boy is charged. The SWAT-like team in England break down the door at 6 o'clock in the morning and haul this 13-year-old away, like a serial killer or something. Like, seriously, like, it's very, very SWAT team, break down the door, destroy things, yell at people, attack people. Like, it's very much like that. Even the parents who did nothing to them. So you think, wow, that's an overreach. But then you find out what this kid is charged with. So that's the first episode. Basically, he's booked, he's charged. Being that he's so young, they don't really have anywhere to put him because they don't really, it's a small town in England, so they don't really have a place for like brutal murderers that are 13. So it's this sort of fascinating story. And then you sort of find out. So that's the first two episodes. They're trying to figure out why he did it. They know he did it, right? By the end of the first episode, they know he did it. They have video. He brutally murdered this other 13-year-old girl by stabbing her, like with a kitchen knife, like really graphic stuff, right? But they have video of him doing it. So, and he's swearing to his dad he didn't do it, swearing to his dad, lying to his dad's face, and then never apologize because his dad's with him because he's a minor, so he needs a responsible adult. Doesn't apologize to his dad about why he did it, doesn't tell his dad why he did it, still trying to pretend that he didn't. And so this sort of cracks in this childish childhood kind of facade just start breaking down, and you start seeing that he is this cold-blooded killer that meant to do it, right? So that's kind of the rest of the story, is why would a 13-year-old end up being like this? And so it's this huge commentary on the world and life and the internet and, you know, parents who are absent and unevolved, parents that basically let the internet raise their kid, which is what these parents did. Not that they're bad at all. I mean, a lot of people do that, but they don't know what their kid was watching. They don't know what their kid was doing. And it turns out very bad things indeed. Because he didn't just think of this himself, he got it from the internet. He got the idea from all the different chat rooms that he was in and things, because there were no child-proof locks on this internet, right? And he was an impressionable young boy, and maybe, obviously, probably had some mental health to begin with, but as we know, mental health care in the UK and Canada is abysmal. Even in 2025, we talk about it, we have days about it, and then we don't do anything about it. We don't help people with it. Even people who deserve, you know, good care, because we all deserve good care. You know, but even very extreme people who seriously need some help don't get it. So that's a lot of the case there. So then we get up to the third thing. The third one was the one that really was powerful for me. Third episode. They don't really know where to put him, so the UK runs it a little differently. So they don't really talk about this place where he is, but it's kind of like a detention center, right, as the people can't leave, but it's also kind of a mental health facility. So, and it seems to just be for young people. I don't think they're all offenders, though. Some of them might just have serious mental health problems. So, but he's kind of there because that's sort of the best place to put him, because he's too young to put him in jail, although ultimately he probably will go to jail. But he, you know, and they were thinking that he had some serious mental health problems, so then he wouldn't go to jail. Right? He would be in a mental hospital, which again, like Canada, they don't really have as much as they used to. Right? So that kind of thing. You know, because of course they have the same health system kind of that we do, which is socialized medicine, right? So it's like the government runs it all, and you don't have to pay for it as much, but then there are good things about that and problems with that. So that's kind of where he kind of is. And so this psychologist, who in my opinion is either stupid or useless, and maybe both, because I've been to enough to know. I've been to plenty. And, you know, I know other people say that she was doing her job, but to me, I don't think that she would have behaved that way, having a psych degree myself, teaching psychology as I do, and being to, you know, more psychologists than you can shake a stick at. She meets him and she's trying to appeal to his childlike nature. She gives him hot chocolate and, has this chat with him. And for a while, they act like it's weird. They act like he's in school and they're just having the school chat. Of course, he isn't, right? And then, of course, it gets a little darker as things go along because she's probing him and he doesn't like to be probed. Don't talk to me about what I did. I don't want to talk about that. And so he starts getting angrier and angrier. And then he has his first meltdown where he kind of, he attacks her, not physically yet, but he stands over her. He throws the hot chocolate. He looms. Even though he's only 13, he's seriously got emotional regulation issues and problems like that. And then the guy actually comes in, the guard or the warden or whoever is there, the attendant, and breaks up the thing. And then he apologizes because he has problems with women, in case you didn't pick this up already, because he doesn't act that way with the male guard at all. He doesn't. He calms right down. It's like, I'm sorry. He apologizes. And then she leaves, of course. And you think she shouldn't come back because she's been there 4 times already. So, like, why didn't you already get what you wanted? Because all you're supposed to be doing is assessing him and assessing his ability to stand trial. Does he know what he did? Or is he, as a child, does he know the severity and the majority of what he did, like the major thing? And so they don't think that he does. So that's why she keeps coming back. And so, but she does come back. God knows why she comes back. Again, I don't know if that's wise, if that's the best thing, but she comes back and then she tries to talk to him again. She tries to get all tough and I'm a psychologist. I'm asking the questions. I'm not here to trick you. I need to know, if you know what you did. So we have to talk about it. And so they talk about it again. His dad, what he thinks of women. And then he freaks out again. I don't remember why, but he freaks out again. And this time is even more serious. He's like yelling at her and, kind of walking around the room like she's being such a problem woman. Like, he wants to slap her around, essentially, right? And that's the vibe that you get, that it's somehow her fault that he's upset. And then again, sort of calms him down. The guy stands at the door and you're like, this woman is now, she's just like, the wheels just come off. And you're like, honey, just leave, seriously, at this point. But she still doesn't. But she said she gets what she wants. She got what she needed for her report. So then she abruptly, after being there for 5 times, tells him she's leaving. She's done her report. She suggests he gets some mental health care because he sorely needs it, and then wants to leave. And then all of a sudden he switches because he does have personality problems, obviously. Although he knows what he did and he doesn't think it was wrong what he did, right? So she got what she came for. And so she tries to leave and he's like, well, do you like me? Do you like me? Whatever, kind of like it's her fault that he's behaving badly, or it's her fault that she doesn't like him and he's mad at her now. And this whole big thing about what happens. And then the guard, can barely hold him back, even though he's only 13. That's how angry he is. And she is really shocked by his behavior. And then the guy wrestles him out the door and, down the hallway. And so she's left there sort of stunned, right? And shocked. And so I was thinking about, again, myself, right? I was thinking about how that was my life. That was my childhood. People did that to me all the time and then just got away with it. And so for somebody who's had an abusive childhood to watch sort of a child behave that way with an adult, it was very, it was upsetting for sure. But then I had kids that behaved that way with me, and I had adults that behaved that way with me and then blamed me for it exactly the way he did. And no, there were no guards that came to help me. Right? They were my family. They were the people in school. They were teachers. They were other people in my life. And, to realize that, wow, that was not my fault. So this person is very, very messed up. And, and they were. So that's something I would say very powerfully, that it's not the person who is injured's fault usually. Sometimes it might be, but It wasn't mine. And so, and it wasn't a lot of people who endured this kind of behavior from, really depraved people or people who had some serious personality issues. And so the fourth episode is basically the aftermath of what ended up happening. It's like over a year later. He's not been sentenced yet, but he's still in custody. He's going to be, though, and he is going to go probably to a juvenile detention center because he's like 14 now. He's getting ready to be able to do that, and probably not a mental health facility like he was in then. And the poor family is trying to make sense of it. Like they're still trying to make sense of how their son could be this brutal murderer and without remorse even. That he doesn't even, like he understands what he did, but he thinks it's okay what he did. And they're getting blowback and pushback from the people in their community, even though they didn't do anything wrong. And so it's very upsetting that, their whole lives are like sort of upended and turned upside down, and that's kind of in a way how it ends. The parents do take some responsibility for realizing that they didn't know, as they say, the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing, and that they didn't care for their son as much as maybe they should have. And now they have to sort of live with this for the remainder of their lives. So such a powerful show and such a powerful commentary on what adolescence has turned into and what the internet and all of this lenient behavior that people do now with kids. They're not taking any responsibility and all of that, and what it kind of has morphed into kids who really do believe that they're entitled, right? And so that's kind of what I wanted to put it out there in my Cerebral movie chat. Please let me know what you think. Do you think maybe that, agree with me, or do you have a different opinion? I would love to know. Again, you can watch it. It's on Netflix right now. Okay, have a good weekend, everybody.